Hello and welcome to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written in Indianapolis by Dr. Adrian Peterson and produced in the studios of WRMI Shortwave in Miami. Today on Wavescan, Focus on Asia, Philippines, Part 7, Tunnel Radio at Corregidor. We have our Japan DX report as well, and a special interview for you with the president of Adventist World Radio. Well, the small island of Corregidor lies at the entrance to Manila Bay in the Philippines. The island is shaped like a tadpole, and it's 4 miles long and 1.5 miles wide at its widest point. The name Corregidor is Spanish, meaning chief magistrate or mayor. With today's story about tunnel radio at Corregidor, here is Ray Robinson of KVOH.
Thanks, Jeff. Yes, during the crucial times as the Japanese armies were moving towards Manila, there were 11,000 American and Filipino personnel on the island. The voluminous Malinta Tunnel had been excavated between 200 feet of rock, and it contained a 1,000-bed hospital. When General Douglas MacArthur evacuated from Manila, he established his temporary headquarters in a side passageway in Malinta Tunnel on Corregidor Island. It was on December 10th, 1941, that the Japanese Air Force bombed the United States Navy base at Cavite, just 3 days after Pearl Harbor. 10 days later, the Marines were ordered to evacuate Cavite, and on January 2nd, 1942, Cavite was totally evacuated except for medical personnel and patients in the hospital. In the meantime, American forces had also retreated into the Bataan Peninsula, a peninsula 50 miles long and 15 miles wide, jutting into Manila Bay just opposite Corregidor Island. Some radio programming was broadcast from Bataan with the use of Army and commercial radio equipment. It's understood that the broadcast transmitter used was a 1 kilowatt mobile unit licensed under the call sign KZRB, which was owned by the former FEBC, Far East Broadcasting Company, which is not related to the subsequent and current FEBC in Manila. The American Army took this transmitter over mainly as a relay station for programming from KGEI in San Francisco. But the transmissions from KZRB Bataan also contained locally produced news and information, and sometimes relays from elsewhere, including Freedom Radio on Corregidor. The station was heard in Australia at times on 11850, 11940 or 15545 kHz. The Bataan forces surrendered on April 9, 1942, and mobile KZRB was silenced. Meanwhile, over in Corregidor, in December 1941, a 1 kilowatt shortwave transmitter had been removed from the commercial radio broadcasting station KZRH in Manila and reinstalled in Malinta Tunnel on Corregidor Island. Additional radio equipment, including mobile transmitters from elsewhere throughout Manila, was hurriedly collected and also transferred to Corregidor Island. The United States Army blew up all private and commercial broadcasting equipment in the Manila area, including all of the large transmitters and including the newly imported American equipment so recently installed for medium wave and shortwave station KZRM. Studios, papers and documents throughout the city were also hurriedly destroyed. The Malinta Tunnel also contained a bevy of radio equipment for use in communicating with Philippine regiments throughout the islands, and also with forces headquarters in Australia, Hawaii and the United States. The 1 kilowatt shortwave transmitter previously on the air in Manila was installed in Malinta Tunnel along with a makeshift studio, and it was placed into use as a radio broadcasting station with antenna systems directly above, on top of Malinta Hill. The new Voice of Freedom was inaugurated at 6 p.m. on Monday, January 5th, 1942, with a recorded version of the Star-Spangled Banner, followed by opening announcements and news in English from Carlos Romulo, the previous general manager of FEBC. This FEBC was a commercial organization, and as just mentioned, it was not related to the subsequent religious FEBC organization in Manila. The initial English station announcement from the Voice of Freedom was followed by similar information in the Tagalog language presented by Francisco Isidoro. The main frequency for the Voice of Freedom was 9645 kHz, though other nearby channels were taken at varying times in order to avoid Japanese jamming. The Japanese reactivated station KZRH at its original location in Manila, and a broadcasting war took place between them and the Voice of Freedom. The KZRH operating channel was only 5 kHz away on 9640 kHz. Soon after the Voice of Freedom was launched, one of the radio personnel on Corregidor went surreptitiously back into Manila and climbed into the revived KZRH via a fire escape ladder and stole some more equipment, including a recording of the Philippine national anthem. This new and relatively low-powered Voice of Freedom was heard far and wide throughout the Philippines and beyond, in Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, and the continental United States. Another broadcasting station in the Philippines, KZRC, in Cebu, regularly relayed the off-air programming from the Voice of Freedom via their own transmitters on 1200 kHz medium wave and on 6105 kHz shortwave, both at 1 kilowatt each. This tandem relay ended on April 9, 1942, at the time when the American forces on Bataan surrendered. Although the Voice of Freedom did its best during the tragic events of 1942, there was some dissatisfaction on the part of its listeners. Some locals described the station as the voice of boredom due to a lack of variety in programming and poor quality production. Another writer stated that the hopeful slant in their news bulletins lacked reality and sounded hollow. Interestingly, there was another clandestine radio station during the same era. Radio transmission equipment was installed in a hidden area in the Art Deco Jai Alai Sports Building on Taft Avenue, Manila, and this was activated in an attempt to obtain discreet communication with Corregidor. However, this transmitter in Manila was on the air with no more than a few experimental test transmissions. On Wednesday, May 6th, the American General Wainwright made a broadcast over the Voice of Freedom in which he addressed the Japanese military governor, General Masaharu Homma, requesting surrender. This broadcast was on the air 3 times in English, with a follow-on translation in Japanese at 10:30 a.m., 11 a.m., and finally 11:45 a.m. Next day, just before midnight, the surrender was implemented. Before the American surrender on Corregidor, most of the radio equipment in Malinta Tunnel was destroyed. However, the 1 kilowatt shortwave transmitter on the air previously as KZRH in Manila and then as the Voice of Freedom on Corregidor was spared intact.
You're listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Send your comments and reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the United States. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the USA. Or you can email us at wavescan@awr.org. Our email once again, wavescan@awr.org.
And with us in the Wavescan studio in Okeechobee this week is Dr. Dal Chow, president of Adventist World Radio. Dal, welcome to Okeechobee. Welcome to WRMI. What brings you down to this part of the country?
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I've been always wanting to come and see this facility ever since you took over. And I thought this was the perfect time to do this because I'm on my way to other meetings. And I took off a few days, Jeff, to be here. I'm glad I did.
And what do you think of the place? I mean, it's
huge. And one of the things that struck me is the dedication of the staff you have here, Jeff. Excellent people and very resourceful. What you have here is a huge plant. But you do most, if not all, of your things right here. You build things from scratch. So that's impressed me a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The people, the staff, most of the staff have been here for 15 to 30 years, and so they know these transmitters and antennas and things inside and out, fortunately. And from here, then you go on to Nashville, I think?
I go to Nashville for the NRB convention.
National Religious Broadcasters?
Yeah, for a day or two, and then from there I go back home to get ready for other trips.
You spend most of your time on the road or on the airplane these days,
well, that's the nature of my job. Yes.
What's new at Adventist World Radio these days? I know there's a lot of stuff happening all over the world, but can you just mention a couple of the things that are going on currently?
Yeah, well, just recently we re-inaugurated the station on Guam. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we upgraded one of our low-band antennas to high band, and we built a new high band one. So a lot of work went into that. And what does that allow you to do? Allows us to reach the countries of the Pacific Rim, meaning China, Korea, Japan, all those places, at prime time. Mm-hmm. In the past, we had to sacrifice someone. Mm-hmm. China is a huge country, and it has one time zone. Mm-hmm. So we had to reach China. We have to reach China prime time. And when we didn't have that facility, we had to sacrifice somebody to use the transmitters to reach China at that time. Now we have the ability to do China full prime time and still service other countries like North Korea simultaneously.
How many hours of Chinese programming are you airing every day?
I think we're doing like 10 or 12 hours a day just in Mandarin language.
Uh-huh. Are you in Cantonese also? Or?
Cantonese and Minam. We do Minam Cantonese. We do, of course, Mongolian, and we have Tibetan and Urumqi, they call it. National language in China. Mm-hmm. So we do those languages on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. And how many transmitters are there in Guam now?
We have 5 transmitters. They're all 100 kilowatt transmitters.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all.
And how many people run the facility? How many people work there, I should say?
Yeah, well, we have 3 engineers, resident engineers, 1 grounds person or maintenance person, and we have 1 administrator. So we have basically 5 full-time people working at the station.
Uh-huh. KSDA has been on the air for how long now?
Oh, KSDA started in 1987, so it's been, 25 years now plus?
And apart from what's going on at KSDA, I know you're traveling all over the world all the time to all of these events and things. Any other significant AWR news you can tell us about? Yeah,
of course. We add languages constantly to the 100-plus languages we already have. 2 of the most recent ones, they're still just about ready to go on the air, are 2 more languages for India, Oriya and Gujarati. Those are widely spoken languages in India. We already have 13 languages in that country alone that we broadcast in. So those are new developments. We have just recently started one in Sumatra, Indonesia. That's the Batak language. Millions of people speak Batak. So these are new languages. We're looking at the main language for Bhutan, working on that too. So we keep adding languages on that side. We also have recently, Jeff, recently 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, we started podcasting our programs on the Internet. That has been a tremendous, tremendous success.
And I know this program, Wavescan, is also a part of that.
Yes, Wavescan is part of that as well. You're absolutely right.
People are accessing that quite a bit, I guess?
Oh, yeah. Well, the last statistics I saw, we have over 6 million hits on a daily basis. Wow. But, of course, the Mandarin language is the most downloaded language we have in the world. And because just the sheer number of people speaking Mandarin. So that's a very successful program.
And I think also the Central Asian area is one that you're very active in.
Central Asia, it's a challenge there. It's a very challenging place. But we're active trying to start up programs in different local languages. Of course, Central Asia, most of those countries speak Russian. They were part of the Soviet Union way back in time, so people speak Russian. But they also speak their local vernaculars. And you can sense resurgence of local interest in their own language. So we're trying to start production in some of those languages as well, besides Russian.
Now, you're headquartered in Washington, or in Silver Spring, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C., but most of your program production takes place in studios in other locations.
All of our programs are produced outside the United States because these programs are done in those countries by local speakers. We do not have translation. We do not use anything translated in our programs. The programs are done by local speaking people in that dialect, in that language. So we are on the look always to train new people, new speakers, as we go along. So yes, all our studios are outside North America.
After the NRB, where are you off to next?
Probably Central America, then South America, for a while, maybe the Caribbean, and then off to Africa.
Wow. Yeah. And you're doing FM in Africa.
We're doing quite a number of FM stations in some countries in Africa. We do. Ghana has stations, Liberia has stations, Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Malawi, Botswana, Zambia. So, yes, we do have a number of Yaoundé in Cameroon, and also one in Nigeria. So we do have a number of countries where we have been able to start FM stations.
Yet Africa is one of the parts of the world where shortwave is still used quite a bit, and I know you do shortwave broadcasting to Africa also.
We do.
A few different locations.
Very, very much so. We have like 10 or 13 languages we do in Africa every day, and it may change from season to season, but it's no less than 10. And we do Africa from Europe, North Africa, and Central Africa, and we do as well from the south, from Meyerton in South Africa. We head up north, and we also have from Madagascar coming into Africa. Wow. So we have 3 locations from where we spread the signal to Africa.
Well, so always a lot happening at AWR. Will you be joining us at the NASB meeting in Greenville, North Carolina in May?
We hope to. We hope to be there, Jeff.
Okay.
And to join with our folks there, yes.
Well, we're certainly glad you had a chance to stop by and see us here in Okeechobee, and good luck in all your travels and works.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
And that was Dr. Dowell Chow, president of Adventist World Radio, speaking with us at our Okeechobee studio. Some other DX news now. This from the Danish Shortwave Club International via Anker Peterson. He says, our member from the Netherlands, Herbert Visser, wrote, I'm currently on holiday for 2 weeks in China near Shanghai after another 2-week holiday on Bali in Indonesia. Of course, I have my Sanjan ATS 909 shortwave radio with me. I'm actually more of a shortwave listener than a DXer, as I'm always on the lookout for stations I can receive well in order to listen to that, rather than searching for the weakest signals. In Indonesia during daytime, the only stations could be heard were on 13, 16, and 19 meters. Even 25 meters was mostly empty. However, the moment the darkness sets in, it's a paradise. Also, the amateur bands are full of amateurs. Here in China, I don't hear anything on the amateur bands. The station that I could receive very well every evening on 7295 kilohertz, and consequently listened to a lot, was Trax FM, the governmental English-language radio station in Malaysia. Here in China, it's mainly Chinese programming all over the shortwave dials. Another item from the Danish Shortwave Clubs International, CFRX in Toronto has returned on 6070 kilohertz, heard at 0730 UTC. On February 12th, reactivated since it went off in September of 2013, but some interference from Cuba on 6070. Also heard at 0642 on February 12th, the talk show, heavy interference from 6075 Vatican Radio. That should lessen as spring approaches and disappears in A14, with Vatican Radio probably moving back up to 7250 at 0530. Those items from Glenn Hauser, Harold Sellers, and Rich D'Angelo regarding the reactivation of CFRX in Toronto. Now, for those of you who are in the southern U.S., southeastern U.S. specifically, you might be interested in knowing that the 2014 annual meeting of the National Association of Shortwave Broadcasters, NASB, will be taking place May 15th and 16th at the U.S. International Broadcasting Bureau, or IBB, transmitting station in Greenville, North Carolina. That's basically a Voice of America station. Radio Marti is also broadcast from there. Registration for the meeting is free of charge, and it's open to anyone with an interest in shortwave broadcasting or listening. The dates again, May 15th to 16th, that's Thursday and Friday of 2014, at the IBB Greenville transmitter site, the Edward R. Murrow transmitting station in Greenville, North Carolina, about 15 miles southeast of Greenville proper. You can find more information about that on the NASB website, which I'll mention in a moment. There will be a shuttle service for pickup and drop-off for the conference between the hotel and the transmitter site. Many airlines fly to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is about 85 miles from Greenville, and there is an airport in Greenville itself served by U.S. Airways, and there will be pickups arranged by IBB for people flying into that airport. Presentations there will include, tentatively, a talk by A.J. Janacek of Radio Free Asia about green engineering, another talk by David Wickwish of the Radio Heritage Foundation of New Zealand, as well as a live broadcast by Keith Perrone of PCJ Radio in Taiwan, and Dr. Kim Andrew Elliott of Voice of America Audience Research will be talking about his radiogram experiments in anti-jamming program that they're developing there at the Voice of America. If you would like to register for the meeting, again, it's free of charge, and all you need to do is fill out the online registration form at the NASB website, and you can find that at www.shortwave.org. That's www.shortwave.org, and then click on Annual Meeting. Now let's go to Japan. Here is Yukiko Tsuji with her monthly DX report.
Hello and welcome to the DX Report of the Month from Japan Shortwave Club, edited by Toshi Otake, and I'm Yukiko Tsuji. We have several DX reports from our club members this week. Radio Republic Indonesia from Ternate, Indonesia was heard on 3345 kHz on February 11th from 0906 to 0916 UTC in Indonesian. SIO rating was 252. Local songs and talk program were aired. FEBC from Philippines was heard on 9430 kHz on February 7th from 1130 to 1200 UTC in English and Chinese. SIO rating was 454. Heaven Today program was broadcast. Adventist World Radio via Mayatun, South Africa was received on 11755 kHz on January 30th from 2050 to the sign-off at 2059 UTC in Yoruba. SIO rating was 252. Preach program was heard and ID was given at 2056. Radio Dialogue via Madagascar was heard on 12105 kHz on February 2nd from 1600 to 1613 UTC in English and local language. SIO rating was 353. Pop music by Michael Jackson and the talk program were on the air. ID was given at 1602. Radio Prague via WRMI from Okeechobee, USA was heard on 9955 kHz on February 12th from 1302 to 1314 UTC in English. SIO rating was 353. Local music and news were broadcast. ID was given at 1309. WWCR from Nashville, USA was heard on 9350 kHz on February 2nd from 2225 to 2240 UTC in English with Preach program. SIO rating was 252. ID was given at 2230. Radio Marumbi from Curitiba, Brazil was heard on 6080 kHz on January 28th from 0840 to 0910 UTC in Portuguese. SIO rating was 352. Brazilian pop music and talk were aired. ID and jingle were given at 0900. Radio Voz Missionaria from Camboriú, Brazil was heard on 9664.4 kHz on January 31st from 0808 to 0900 UTC in Portuguese. SIO rating was 332. Brazilian pop music and the talk program were on the air. ID and the jingle were given at 0900. Radio Novi de Furio from São Paulo, Brazil was heard on 9820 kHz on February 11th from 0713 to 0731 UTC in Portuguese. SIO rating was 342. Local songs and the talk program were broadcast. ID was given at 0730. Radio Transmundial from Santa Maria, Brazil was heard on 11735 kHz on February 11th from 0945 to 10:05 UTC in Portuguese. SIO rating was 353. They played some local songs and the talk program was on the air. ID was given at 0902. Radio Brazil Central from Goiânia, Brazil was heard on 11815 kHz on January 28th from 0837 to 0850 UTC in Portuguese. SIO rating was 353. Talk program with some songs were aired. Finally, Japan Shortwave Club will issue the QSL cards for the correct reports on our segment of Wavescan program. We are issuing QSL card by email to the report sent by email. Our address for your email report is jswcqsl@live.jp. I repeat, jswcqsl@live.jp. We continue to issue the printed QSL card by the same system as before. Your report should be addressed to JSWC PO Box 44, Kamakura, which is KAMAKURA, postal code 248-8691, Japan. $1 ILC or $2 for return postage will be appreciated. For this edition of DX Report, we would like to thank Mr. Yasuharu Tanabe, Mr. Iwao Nagatani, Mr. Chiaki Shimada, and Mr. Shoichi Tamane for sharing the information with us. Thank you for listening, and please join us for our next edition of DX Report of Japan Shortwave Club. I'm Yukiko Tsuji in Tokyo.
Thank you, Yukiko. And finally, one more item of shortwave news. As of March 1st, Radio Taiwan International has resumed its relays via Okeechobee, Florida, this time from WRMI, daily at 0300 to 0400 UTC in Spanish to Central America on 7730 kHz, Radio Taiwan International in Spanish. And folk music from Taiwan ends this edition of Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio, researched and written by Adrian Peterson in Indianapolis. Next week, shortwave radio in Albania, Canadian Radio Panorama Part 4, the intervening years, and our Philippine DX report. If you'd like a Wavescan QSL card, you can send your reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. Our email is wavescan@awr.org. That's wavescan@awr.org. I'm Jeff White at WRMI Shortwave. Till next week, good listening, everyone.